Today we're going to dive into some cryptid creatures, which I kind of believe in, but
I believe in them too.
I think everything that people have seen is a part of another dimension, so we just get snippets of them.
Yep.
But to be exact, we're going to get into vampires, zombies, werewolves, the shapeshifters, and a little bit of the skinwalkers. I'm going to do a separate video completely get into skinwalkers and the skinwalker ranch. So,
I'm prepared.
So you can't get into Halloween without speaking about the things that may be hiding in the dark. Today we are talking about vampires, werewolves, zombies, and shapeshifters. Might be hiding in the dark.
Vampiric entities have been recorded in most cultures. The term vampire was popularized in Western Europe after reports of an 18th century mass hysteria of a pre-existing folk belief in the Balkans and Eastern Europe that in some cases resulted in corpses being staked and people being accused of vampirism. Local variants in Eastern Europe were also known by different names such as, I'm probably going to butcher this, Striga in Albania. Oh, there's no way I'm even trying that one. Brykolakaas. Wait, Vrikolakas? I may have butchered that. In Greece.
There's a lot of big words, but I want to include everybody's
Strigoi in Romania. Probably butchered all of them, but bear with us. I suck a little.
Alright, the Oxford English Dictionary dates the first appearance of the English word vampire as vampira in English from 1734 in a travelogue titled Travels of Three. English gentleman published in the Harline Miscellany in 1745.
Alrighty. Ready for me to butcher more words? I'm just joking. I don't know if I will or not.
There's a lot of hard words, but like I said, I wanted to...
Right.
Different languages have different beliefs, so...
Yes. Vampires had already been discussed in French and German literature after Austria gained control of northern Serbia and Oltenia with the Treaty of Passarowitz in 1718. Officials noted the local practice of exhuming bodies and killing vampires. These reports, prepared between 1725 and 1732, received widespread publicity. The English term was derived possibly via French vampire from the German Vampir, in turn derived in the early 18th century from the Serbian Vampir. Is that it? There's no period, so it's hard for me to tell where I'm at. Okay. Yeah, that's the end of that one. Sorry.
The notion of vampirism has existed for millennia. Cultures such as Mesopotamians, Hebrews, ancient Greeks, Mesopotamians, goodness gracious.
Yes.
Hebrews, ancient Greeks, many Romans had tales of demons and spirits which are considered precursors to modern vampires. Despite the occurrence of vampire-like creatures in these ancient civilizations, the folklore for the entity known today as a vampire originates almost exclusively from early 18th century southeastern Europe, when verbal traditions of many ethnic groups of the region were recorded and published.
That sounds interesting. Let's see. Where am I? In most cases, vampires are revenants of evil beings, suicide victims, or witches. But they can also be created by a malevolent spirit possessing a corpse or by being bitten by a vampire. Belief in such legends became so pervasive that in some areas it caused mass hysteria and even public executions of people believed to be vampires. Ooh.
It is difficult to make a single definitive description of the folklore vampire. Though there are several elements common in many European legends, vampires were usually reported as bloated in appearance and ruddy purplish or dark color.
Ruddy.
Oh, ruddy. These characteristics were often attributed to the recent drinking of blood or a decomposing corpse.
Blood was often seen seeping from the mouth and nose when one was seen in its shroud or coffin, and its left eye was often open. It would be clad in the linen shroud it was buried in, and its teeth, hair, and nails may have grown somewhat, though in general fangs were not a feature. Although vampires are generally described as undead, some folk tales spoke of them as living beings. I always thought the undead were zombies.
Well, so are vampires.
No, I always thought vampires were just another consciousness of being, you know?
No, because they have to die first.
Yes, but they're immortal.
So are ghosts.
I'm just saying.
In Slavic and Chinese traditions, any corpse that was jumped over by an animal, particularly a dog or a cat, was feared to become one of the undead. A body with a wound that had not been treated with boiling water was also at risk. In Russian folklore, vampires were said to have once been witches or people who had rebelled against the Russian Orthodox Church while they were alive.
Alright. Took too big of a hit on my vape. Oh. Wasn't paying attention.
Control.
I got it. I'm trying to breathe. I didn't want to start reading and then have to cough. Okay. Cultural practices often arose that were intended to prevent a recently deceased loved one from turning into an undead revenant. Burying a corpse upside down was widespread, as was placing earthly objects such as scythes and sickles near the grave to satisfy any demons entering the body or to appease the dead so that it would not wish to arise from its coffin. Bury me ass up so everybody can kiss my ass.
Oh, jeez, that's not a classic. This method resembles the ancient Greek practices of placing obelisks in the corpse's mouth to pay the toll to cross the river Styx, which you've heard in mythology.
Oh, yeah.
In the underworld, it has been argued that instead the coin was intended to ward off any evil spirits from entering the body, and this may have influenced later vampire folklore.
Damn. I just can't breathe.
She's crazy.
No. I only had me tested. Said it my ex-wife. This tradition persisted in modern Greek folklore about the Vrikolakas, in which a wax cross and piece of pottery with the inscription Jesus Christ Conquers were placed on the corpse to prevent the body from becoming a vampire. If I thought that I could become a vampire after death, you know, like after I died, then I wouldn't want to be cremated. I would want to do everything in my power to become a vampire. Because awesomeness. Sorry. Couldn't help myself.
Other methods commonly practiced in Europe included severing the tendons at the knees or placing poppy seeds, milk, or sand on the ground at the grave site of a presumed vampire. This was intended to keep the vampire occupied all night by counting the fallen grains, indicating an association of vampires with arithmania. What the heck's arithmania?
It's where you like to count things.
Oh.
And you can't stop until it's all counted.
OCD.
Yeah, and if you
Howard Hughes.
if you lose count, then you have to start over and count everything all over again. It's actually a mental disease.
I said OCD.
Yeah. Similar Chinese narratives state that if the vampire-like being came across a sack of rice, it would have to count every grain. This is a theme encountered in myths from Indian subcontinent as well as in South American tales of witches and other sorts of evil or mischievous spirits or beings. It's an interesting concept, but I gotta say, I'm not sure.
The method of finding a vampire grave involved leading a virgin boy through a graveyard or church grounds on a virgin stallion. The horse would supposedly bulk on the grave in question. Generally, a black horse was required, though in Albania it should be white. Holes appearing in the earth over a grave were taken as a sign of vampirism. I got some weird, news, you guys.
Some. Corpses thought to be vampires were generally described as having a healthier appearance than expected, plump and showing little or no signs of decomposition. In most cases, when suspected graves were opened, villagers even described the corpse as having fresh blood from a victim all over its face.
Yeah, they didn't have embalming back then, you guys. So every bodily fluid and everything would just seep out of the body. They're decaying.
Yeah.
People. Alright. Evidence that a vampire was active in a given locality included death of cattle, sheep, relatives, or neighbors. Folkloric vampires could also make their presence felt by engaging in minor poltergeist-like activities such as hurling stones or on roofs, or moving household objects and pressing on people in their sleep. Which, that's what sleeper's paralysis is supposed to be, a witch or a vampire.
Or a demon.
Or a demon that presses on your chest. It's just that your body puts off a hormone to make you so you don't act out your dreams, and then you don't quite wake up. I used to get it a lot.
I get them still. Ways to repel a vampire were, or are, garlic. Garlic is a common... Okay, I don't understand. Garlic, basically, is a common one. Branch of wild rose and hawthorn plant are said to harm vampires, and in Europe, sprinkling mustard seeds on the roof of a house was said to keep them away. Others include sacred items, for example, a crucifix, rosary, or holy water. Vampires are said to be unable to walk on consecrated ground, such as that of churches or temples, or cross running water. Cross running water. So if you had a moat that was literally just moving all the time.
Maybe that's why one of the reasons they put moats around castles.
Yeah, but that water wasn't always moving. It was usually stagnant. Unless there's fish in it. Because then it would be moving.
Alright.
Anyways. Go ahead.
Although not traditionally regarded as apotropic.
I have no idea.
Apotropic. Apotropic. Mirrors have been used to ward off vampires when placed facing outwards on a door. In some cultures, vampires do not have reflections, sometimes do not cast a shadow, perhaps as a manifestation of the vampire's lack of soul.
Ooh.
If you know any classic vampire movies, that you can never see them in the
mirror. Yeah. Although Beetlejuice took that one step further and said that dead people couldn't be seen in mirrors either.
Who said that?
Beetlejuice.
Oh.
The movie.
I haven't watched that in a long time.
Me either, but in that movie, they can't see themselves in a mirror, so...
Beetlejuice.
This attribute is not universal. The Greek Vricolaus Tympanios was capable of both reflection and shadow, but was used by Bram Stoker in Dracula and has remained popular with subsequent authors and filmmakers.
I read Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's pretty good, actually.
I haven't read that in a really long time. I was a teenager.
That's what I read. It was as a teenager. Some traditions also hold that a vampire cannot enter a house unless invited by the owner, which if you guys have watched True Blood, that's one of the things.
That's almost every single vampire story ever made. You can't come in if you're a vampire without being...
True Blood's a very good movie. I'll show you guys. For the first invitation, they can come and go as they please. Though folklore vampires were believed to be more active at night, they were not generally considered vulnerable to sunlight. They weren't. I think Bram Stoker's the one that first did this whole sunlight thing.
Yeah. Let's see. Methods of destroying suspected vampires. Lost my place for some reason. Oh, okay. Methods of destroying suspected vampires varied, with staking the most commonly cited method, particularly in southern Slavic cultures. Ash was the preferred wood in Russia and the Baltic states, or hawthorn in Serbia, with a record of oak in Silesia. Your turn.
Aspen was also used for stakes, as it was believed that Christ's cross was made from aspen. Aspen branches on the graves of purported vampires were also believed to prevent their rising at night. Potential vampires were most often staked through the heart, though the mouth was targeted in Russia and northern Germany, and the stomach in northeastern Serbia.
Interesting.
I could see the heart and maybe the brain, but...
Well, in some cultures, you have to chop the head off. And in some, you have to burn them. So...
Well, he says because those are the two main things you have to live.
Yeah.
Brain and your heart.
Got it. Piercing the skin of the chest was a way of deflating the bloated vampire.
It's a bloated corpse.
This is similar to a practice of anti-vampire burial, burying sharp objects such as sickles with the corpse so that they may penetrate the skin if the body bloats sufficiently while transforming into a revenant.
That's because it's a bloated corpse.
People are dumb.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, do I believe some of this shit? Yes. But there's some things that are just ridiculous, like bloated corpse becoming a revenant.
Decapitation was the preferred method in German and Eastern Slavic areas, with the head buried between the feet, behind the buttocks or away from the body. The act was seen as a way of hastening the departure of the soul, which in some cultures was said to linger in the corpse. The vampire's head, body, or clothes could also be spiked and pinned to the earth to prevent rising.
Hey, that's one way to keep zombies from
Note to self for
coming
zombies.
back. Just stake them into the coffin. They're not going anywhere. Staple them into the coffin. Big giant staples for the stomach. They're not going anywhere.
And just so you guys know, those cages on top of inside of cemeteries are not actually for zombies or vampires. Those are made to prevent grave robbing. It's a mythology.
Yes. No. Romany people drove steel or iron needles into a corpse's heart and placed bits of steel in the mouth, over the eyes, ears, and between the fingers at the time of burial. They also placed hawthorn in the corpse's sock and drove a hawthorn stake through the legs. See? There we go. There's one way of keeping zombies and vampires from coming out. But stakes through their legs. They go nowhere. Sorry, I couldn't help it. I had to. It's just too funny.
In 16th century burial near Venice, a brick forced into the mouth of a female corpse has been interpreted as a vampire slaying ritual by the archaeologists who discovered it in 2006. In Bulgaria, over 100 skeletons with metal objects such as plug bits embedded in his torso has been discovered, which I found some pictures of, so I will be adding them.
She'll put that right here. Further measures included pouring boiling water over the grave or complete incineration of the body. In the Balkans, a vampire could also be killed by being shot or drowned by repeating the funeral service, by sprinkling holy water on the body, or by exorcism.
In Romania, garlic could be placed in the mouth, and as recently as the 19th century, the precaution of shooting a bullet through the coffin was taken. For resistant cases, the body was dismembered and the pieces burned, mixed with water, and administered to the family members as a cure. In Saxon regions of Germany, a lemon was placed in the mouth of suspected vampires. Yeah, because the lemon's going to do a whole lot.
You're gonna wake up and go, ew, I don't want to drink blood now.
My ancestors were dumb. I can see the brick in the mouth, but the lemon. Oh my god.
Who knows? Who knows? Almost every nation has associated blood drinking with some kind of revenant or demon, or in some cases, a deity.
The Persians were one of the first of the civilizations to have tales of blood-drinking demons, creatures attempting to drink blood from men men were depicted as excavated pottery shards. Ancient Babylonia and Assyria had tales of the mythical Lilitu, synonymous with and giving rise to Lilith, which we all know who Lilith was.
Yes, Lilith. None other than... No.
We'll get into who Lilith is in a minute.
Lilith was considered a demon and was often depicted as subsisting on the blood of babies and estries. Female shape-changing, blood-drinking demons were said to injure estry... to roam the night... Sorry. I went down too far. Among the population seeking victims. According to Sefer Hasidim, estries were creatures created in the twilight hours before God rested. An injured estry could be healed by eating bread and salt given her by her attacker. Okay. I'm still not sure what a freaking estry is. An estry.
Where is that?
Okay, hold this right there. Damn it.
During the 18th century, there was a frenzy of vampire sightings in Eastern Europe with frequent staking and grave digging to identify and kill the potential revenants. Even government officials engaged in the hunting and staking of vampires.
Look
Estry up.
I could, but that would mean I'd have to do something and I don't want to. I'll look it up later. Despite being called the Age of Enlightenment, during which most folkloric legends were quelled, the belief in vampires increased dramatically, resulting in a mass hysteria throughout most of Europe. The panic began with an outbreak of alleged vampire attacks in East Prussia in 1721, and in the Habsburg monarchy from 1725 to 1734, which spread to other localities. Basically other locations, because localities seems like a really weird word to me. Doesn't it?
Yeah.
I understand that it's a word, but it's an old word.
Alright. The stories of the Luguru are widespread through the Caribbean islands of Louisiana and the United States. Similar female monsters are the Sacoyat of Trinidad and the Tunda and Potosa of Colombian folklore, while the Mapuche of southern Chile have the blood-sucking snake known as the Pashun. Aloe vera hung backwards behind or near a door was thought to ward off vampiric beings in South American folklore. Aztec mythology described tales of the Kahatsu, skeleton-faced spirits of those who died in childbirth, who stole children and entered into sexual liaisons with the living, driving them mad. So it sounds like a...
Dun dun dun.
A siren, not a siren. I can't remember the word right now. Go after men and women.
I know the word too. It's like right on the tip of my tongue. And I'm like, I can say it. I know I can say it. Come on, just say it. But I can't get the word out. It starts with an S.
Yes.
I know this. I know this. Let me think about it.
Shit.
I know this. Because I know it's as soon as it's gonna hit me. The Nukekubi is a being whose head and neck detach from its body to fly about seeking human prey at night. Legends of female vampire-like beings who can detach parts of their upper body, also occur in the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia.
Yeah, I'll be putting pictures. I found pictures of all these little creatures.
Succubus.
Succubus, yes.
I told
There's a
you it would come
succubus
to
and
me.
then there's the
Incubus.
incubus, yeah.
I told you it would come to me.
There are two main vampire-like creatures in the Philippines.
Ow.
The Tagalog Mandrugo, or bloodsucker, and the Vizian Manonala.
As she butchers a word.
I have to ask my Philippine friends. The Mandrogo is a variety of the aswang that takes the form of an attractive girl by day and develops wings and long, hollow thread-like tongue by night.
Aswang.
The dog is used to suck up blood from a sleeping victim.
I'm sorry, I just have to. It's so funny. Asswang. I'm shutting up and reading now. Oh my goodness. Shut up. This is a really bad one. I'm probably going to butcher the fuck out of it, so I'm just letting you know ahead of time. I'm sorry. The Manananggal, I think I got that pretty close, is described as being an older, beautiful woman capable of severing its upper torso in order to fly into the night with huge bat-like wings and prey on unsuspecting, sleeping pregnant women in their homes. I don't want to be pregnant anymore. They use an elongated...
I like the elongated tongue, though.
They use an elongated proboscis-like tongue to suck fetuses from these pregnant women. They also prefer to eat entrails, specifically the heart and liver. Ew. And the phlegm of sick people. Ew! Why? The phlegm of sick people. Oh. Phlegm in and of itself is nasty, but sick people?
Ew, baby, let me eat your phlegm.
Ew.
The Malaysian Pinagalan is a woman who obtained her beauty through the active use of black magic or other unnatural means, and is almost commonly described as local folklore to be a dark or demonic nature. She is able to detach her fanged head which flies around in the night looking for blood, typically from pregnant women. Malaysians hung Jeju thistles around the doors and windows of houses, hoping the Pinagalan would not enter for the fear of catching its intestines on the thorns.
Wow.
Yeah, because it actually, like...
Okay. So I looked up Estri. And Estries are female vampires of Jewish folklore that are believed to prey on Hebrew citizens. The name derives from the French Strix, a term for a night owl. I did not know that. Now we know. And knowing is half the battle. Right?
Yes, dear.
Whatever. The Leyak is a similar being from Balinese folklore of Indonesia. Oh, man. Now, I've heard this word, so I think I actually can read this one. A Kuntilanak or Matianak in Indonesia, or Pontianak or Langsur in Malaysia, is a woman who died during childbirth and became undead, seeking revenge and terrorizing villages. She appears as an attractive woman with long black hair that covered a hole in the back of her neck with which she sucked the blood of children. I'm gonna vomit. Filling the hole with her hair would drive her off. Ew. Corpses had their mouths filled with glass beads, eggs under each armpit, and needles in their palms to prevent them from becoming like sore. This description would also fit the Sundel Bolongs. What is with these names?
They're other people's.
Eggs
version.
under each armpit. Put the eggs under each armpit. Why? Eggs? That makes no sense to me. Look at this.
Jingashi, sometimes called Chinese vampires by Westerners, are reanimated corpses that hop around, killing living creatures to absorb life essence from their victims. They are said to be created when a person's soul fails to leave the deceased body. Changshi are usually represented as mindless creatures with no independent thought. These monsters have greenish-white frayed skin, perhaps derived from fungus or mold growing on corpses. Yummy!
That makes me so vomitous. Reasons is spelled wrong. Reasons that people might have believed in the creatures are decomposition, premature burial, contagion, porphyria, rabies, psychodynamic theories, political interpretations, and psychopathology. Okay. Whatever you say.
Those were vampires? Now we're getting into werewolves.